Tucked away behind thick hedges and private security gates on Jupiter Island, sits one of the most guarded homes in America. It belongs to Tiger Woods, and for years, almost no one outside his inner circle has been inside. But during what was supposed to be a routine fix on the property, something completely unexpected was found. What was uncovered sent quiet shockwaves through those who saw it, and it raised a simple but chilling question. Why was it hidden so well in the first place? Most exclusive estate. In 2006, Tiger Woods bought a large property on Jupiter Island, Florida. According to property records and media coverage at the time, the purchase cost him around $40 million. It was a double lot, roughly 12 acres in size, located right on the Atlantic Ocean side of the island. The location alone made headlines, but it wasn't until years later that the full scale of what he was building became clear. After finalizing the sale, Tiger demolished the existing mansion on the property and began construction on a custom-built residence that would reflect both his personal lifestyle and professional needs. The project took several years and was completed sometime around 2010 or 2011, shortly after he finalized his divorce from Elin Nordegren. Reports at the time confirmed that Tiger moved in alone while splitting custody of his children. The estate consists of two main buildings, a 12,000 square foot main house and a 14,000 square foot multi-purpose building. These two structures are connected by a glass-covered walkway, allowing easy movement between them without having to go outside. The layout blends open-plan modern architecture with privacy-focused design. Though aerial photos of the estate have been shared publicly, the interior has rarely, if ever, been officially shown. The main house includes a spacious living area, large kitchen, multiple bedrooms and bathrooms, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. The design is sleek and minimal, built for function rather than flash. Friends and visitors have noted the quiet, calm layout of the home. There's also a private cinema, elevator, and a temperature-controlled wine cellar, features consistent with many luxury estates in the area. Separate from the main residence is the second structure, which includes a gym, a media room, and spaces used for business or training purposes. According to people familiar with the property, this building was designed to support Tiger's physical recovery and long-term performance goals. It's where most of his off-course work takes place, including therapy, strength training, and meetings with trainers or advisors. The outside of the property is just as striking. The estate includes a 100-foot lap pool, a circular diving pool, and a small wading pool for kids. Near the water's edge, there's a private dock, suitable for personal watercraft or small boats. The landscaping is minimal but intentional, using native plants and low-maintenance greenery that helps keep the focus on the clean lines of the property. Security on the estate is extremely tight. Local contractors who have worked on Jupiter Island homes describe his setup as on par with embassy-level privacy. There are tall hedges, motion sensors, and private access roads to the residence. The local town ordinances limit how much can be done to block views from the air, but the estate design naturally reduces aerial visibility by keeping the most private areas near the center of the property, away from the shoreline. Neighbors on Jupiter Island include other high-profile names, but Tiger's property stands out because of its location and layout. His estate spans from the intracoastal waterway to the ocean side, meaning he essentially controls land from one shoreline to the other. That alone makes the estate one of the most valuable single-owner residential properties in the region. By the time he settled in, Tiger had built not just a home but a secluded personal headquarters. It was clear from early on that this was about creating a space where he could recover, train, raise his children, and live without the daily spotlight. And for nearly a decade, it worked exactly as intended. But years later, that same isolation would lead to one of the strangest discoveries on Jupiter Island. The Precision Practice Complex. While most professional golfers have a home simulator or a putting mat tucked away in a spare room, Tiger Woods took the idea of a home course to another level. Built directly into the grounds of his Jupiter Island estate, Tiger's private practice facility is one of the most advanced personal golf complexes ever constructed on residential property. After moving into the estate around 2011, Tiger began designing the outdoor complex with the same precision he brought to his tournament play. Instead of relying on a local club or public facility, he wanted full control over his training environment. According to insiders familiar with the build, the goal was to replicate multiple conditions he might face on professional tours, right in his backyard. The result is a short game area that stretches across several acres of the property, completely integrated with the surrounding landscape. It includes 4 full-size putting greens with different slopes and speeds, 6 bunkers with varying depths, and sand types ranging from Augusta-style white silica to British open-style compacted turf sand. The greens are cut at different heights to simulate fairway, fringe, and rough. One green is specifically maintained at a higher speed to mimic US Open conditions. There's also a wedge range where Tiger can hit shots from 85 to 145 yards into various green shapes with changing pin positions. This part of the complex allows him to work on distance control and ball flight under different wind angles and turf responses. According to reports, some of these greens are outfitted with built-in sensors to track landing angles, spin rates, and carry distances, data he uses to fine-tune wedge gapping and trajectory control. One unique feature is the second-story observation platform, built into the side of one of the support buildings on the estate. From this elevated point, Tiger's coaches and swing consultants can film or observe his sessions from above. This angle provides better visibility of ball flight, setup alignment, and swing path, all without standing on the range with him. The practice complex also includes floodlights that allow training to continue at night, which is especially helpful when preparing for overseas tournaments in different time zones. Insiders say Tiger occasionally used the nighttime sessions not only for physical prep, but also to rehearse pressure scenarios with time constraints, like needing to birdie the final hole of a playoff. To maintain all this, the estate uses a custom irrigation system that draws water from a deep underground well. That water is processed on-site to reduce salinity and hardness, then delivered through a zone-controlled sprinkler system. This allows him to replicate the feel of soft spring fairways, firm summer greens, or damp link-style turf. Every setting can be changed to suit upcoming tournament conditions. There's also an indoor hitting bay built into one of the buildings. It includes a launch monitor, force plate system, and full swing camera array. This indoor section was especially important during periods of recovery when Tiger couldn't spend long hours outdoors. Reports suggest that during his rehab periods, this indoor setup allowed him to gradually work back to full swing routines without compromising posture or impact positions. What's clear is that the entire complex is a functioning, high-performance training environment. Every inch of it serves a purpose, to give Tiger the edge without having to leave his property. For someone who's made his career on control and repetition, it makes sense. And while outsiders have only seen glimpses from drones and satellite photos, those who've been on the grounds describe it as the most professional setup outside of tour-level facilities. Renovation. Years after settling into the estate, Tiger Woods began noticing small but persistent issues with the main residence. According to people close to the property management team, it started with uneven settling on the east side of the house. Doors didn't close properly. Floor tiles developed hairline cracks. At first, it was brushed off as normal for a coastal property built on sand-heavy terrain, but eventually, the signs became too consistent to ignore. Tiger brought in a structural engineering firm to evaluate the situation. Soil testing revealed that the ground beneath the foundation had shifted slightly over time, likely due to natural erosion combined with rising groundwater levels. While the home itself wasn't in immediate danger, preventative measures were recommended to avoid future damage. The proposed solution involved drilling pilings into the subsoil to better anchor the structure, something that's been done on other luxury homes along Florida's coastlines. The work began quietly. Crews operated mostly at night or early morning to avoid drawing attention. Permits were filed under routine maintenance categories. There was no public statement or press release about it. The crew assigned to the job consisted of only a few contractors who had worked on the original construction of the estate. Tiger's staff were instructed to keep the job discreet, which wasn't unusual considering the privacy standards in place on the property. But something unexpected happened during the early phase of the work. While preparing to stabilize the structure near the northeast section of the property, just beyond the living quarters, Workers uncovered an obstruction beneath a concrete slab. But this was only the beginning. You see, what looked like standard substructure turned out to be something else entirely. After removing several inches of reinforced concrete and protective fill, they found what appeared to be a sealed steel door, embedded horizontally into the foundation. At first, the team assumed it was an old septic access or storm drain feature left over from the previous home that had once stood on the property. But when they checked the architectural blueprints for both the old and current builds, there was no record of any structure in that location. Nothing underground, nothing planned, nothing permitted. That raised immediate concern. It was brought to Tiger's attention, who approved further inspection, but insisted it be handled without external involvement. The contractors brought in a small rig to break the seal. What they uncovered was the entry to a narrow concrete shaft that led down about 12 feet. At the bottom was a square chamber, roughly 20 feet long by 15 feet wide. It had its own air ducting, its own electrical feed, and was lined with a moisture-resistant finish. The room was empty, at least at first glance. There was no visible doorbell, no lock from the outside, and no interior access point from the house. It had been built to stay hidden. According to one insider close to the inspection process, the vault appeared to have been constructed at the same time as the original foundation. The wiring and ventilation systems matched the materials used during the early 2010s build-out. That suggested it was intentionally added when the current estate was being constructed. When Tiger was told about the sealed room, he wasn't surprised. In fact, he reportedly gave direct instructions on how to proceed. The vault was to be cataloged, cleaned, and photographed, but nothing was to be removed until he reviewed it personally. Security staff were stationed near the access point around the clock for several days while that process took place. What raised more questions was the fact that even longtime staff didn't know it existed. Some assumed it might be a storm shelter or panic room. Others believed it was a private storage space, hidden for personal reasons. But it held more than just blank walls. It contained items that had been hidden away for years, possibly since the estate was first completed. And when those items were finally identified, it changed everything about what people thought they knew about Tiger's life off the course. But the story goes deeper. The vault. The first thing the inspection team noticed was how deliberate the space felt. The vault wasn't chaotic or forgotten. It was clean, climate-controlled, and eerily silent, insulated from vibration, noise, and time itself. The walls were lined with custom shelving, and every item had its place. Steel containers, archival boxes, and wooden crates were stacked with labels that read like quiet whispers from the past, dates, initials, and handwritten notes in fading ink. At the center of it all were several leather-bound photo albums, dating back to the early 1990s. These weren't for show. Inside were rarely seen images of Tiger's early life, moments that had never reached the public eye, candid shots from junior tournaments, training sessions with his father, Earl, family outings that looked frozen in time. One photograph reportedly showed a much younger Tiger staring directly at the camera with a caption scribbled beneath it. "One day, they'll understand." Close by were 3 golf bags, all worn, but preserved. One set matched the exact specs from the 2000 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, the year Tiger demolished the field by 15 strokes. The grips were cracked, but the club heads had been oiled and wrapped almost reverently. The third bag held persimmon woods and blade irons, tools from his teenage years, untouched reminders of a time before fame. But it was what they found next in Tiger Woods' Jupiter Island mansion that will leave you speechless. The most haunting discoveries were stored in a small fireproof cabinet. It held a stack of medical records, MRI scans, rehab schedules, notes from orthopedic specialists. Most were routine, until they weren't. One document had a handwritten note in the margins. "Sharp pain again today. Couldn't swing, couldn't stand, cried after the session." Another simply read, "Numbness in fingers. Losing grip strength. Can't tell anyone." Now this is terrifying enough already, but that's not all. In the far corner, a set of film reels sat in metal canisters, labeled only with years and location codes. No player was found nearby, but the tapes were later sent for digitization. One person who previewed the footage described it as unfiltered, raw, and painful to watch. It reportedly shows Tiger alone, limping through rehab routines, talking to the camera, occasionally breaking down mid-sentence and crying. The vault wasn't built to store trophies. It was built to store what the world was never meant to see. And when Tiger stood in that room for the first time in over a decade, tears reportedly filled his eyes. What they found inside left everyone speechless. And to some, quietly, it was terrifying. Why? When news of the vault's contents quietly circulated among insiders, it sparked serious conversations behind the scenes. What was found wasn't flashy or scandalous, but the implications ran much deeper than anyone expected. For a figure as private as Tiger Woods, the decision to build a hidden space filled with personal records, historical memorabilia, and medical data spoke volumes. According to people familiar with his inner circle, this wasn't about secrecy for the sake of drama. It was about control over his story, his body, and his legacy. One of the most significant aspects of what was found involved how Tiger managed his recovery from injury. Over the years, he's undergone several high-profile surgeries, multiple knee operations, back fusion surgery, and various soft tissue treatments. While the public followed parts of his recovery journey through press releases and tournament appearances, the vault showed how detailed and methodical he was behind the scenes. Recovery was structured like a second job. Reports from those who reviewed the documents say that Tiger kept a strict schedule of progress tracking. Reports indicate that there were handwritten notes comparing flexibility measurements, comments on reaction times, and even logs about diet and sleep. Physical therapy plans were customized, tested, and revised based on performance outcomes. Several of the logs showed that he monitored his practice swings and walking distance day by day, especially in the months leading up to his 2019 Masters comeback. This level of documentation matters because it reveals how Tiger approached the second phase of his career, as a controlled transformation. Most athletes fade out quietly after injuries pile up. He didn't. He reinvented the way he moved, the way he trained, and the way he played, all while keeping the public focus on what happened inside the ropes. The vault proves that his return to major winning form wasn't luck. It was built piece by piece, hour by hour. There's also the broader question of what the vault represents in the context of sports history. If the contents are eventually made public or donated to a sports institution, they would give analysts, trainers, and historians an unparalleled look at one of the most studied athletes in modern times. From a performance science perspective, it's rare to see that much raw data collected by the athletes themselves, especially someone who operated at the top level for decades. His notes, video archives, and medical documents could become case studies in resilience, biomechanics, and long-term recovery under pressure. But even beyond sports science, there's a personal angle that can't be ignored. Tiger has often said in interviews that he doesn't dwell on the past. Yet the care with which he stored early photos, tournament footage, and junior trophies suggests something else. According to a person who has worked with him in the past, this wasn't nostalgia, but documentation. A way of recording milestones that couldn't be explained in a press conference or controlled in media headlines. These were pieces of a story he may not have been ready to tell publicly, but clearly wasn't willing to lose. Some believe the vault was created not just for himself, but for his children. He's spoken often about how important his kids are to him, and there's speculation that the archive was intended as a private legacy, a way to show them how much work went into every title, every comeback, every swing. Rather than telling them stories, he stored the evidence. Footage, records, notes, gear, all kept away from the public eye but preserved in near-perfect condition. And that's the key point. The vault wasn't an accident. It wasn't something left over from an old build or forgotten during a renovation. It was deliberate. It had ventilation, climate control, reinforced walls, and independent wiring. That level of planning only happens when someone wants something protected for a very long time. So when people ask why it matters what was found under Tiger's estate, the answer isn't about what's inside. It's about what it says. That one of the most private athletes in the world had quietly built a vault beneath his home, not to hide something shameful, but to preserve something important: his truth, on his terms. The legacy impact. After the vault was uncovered and its contents documented, the reaction within Tiger Woods' circle was quiet but calculated. There was no press conference, no official statement. But according to people familiar with the matter, steps were immediately taken to secure the materials and assess what should happen next. Tiger's legal and management team reviewed everything, starting with the sensitive documents and private footage, and made sure they were transferred to a secure off-site location for safekeeping. The digitization of the film reels was reportedly done under confidentiality agreements. Only a handful of technicians were brought in, and they worked in a controlled facility with limited access. According to an insider, the process revealed over 30 hours of previously unseen footage, including early swing drills, junior tournaments, and behind-the-scenes looks at practice sessions during his college years. None of this material has been released publicly, but it now exists in a preserved digital format, likely stored under Tiger's direct oversight. What surprised even those close to him was how complete the archive was. Everything seemed to have a purpose. From golf memorabilia and personal artifacts to detailed recovery logs, it all formed a timeline of his life off camera. For a figure who spent decades carefully controlling his public image, the vault showed a different side, one less filtered by press, sponsorships, or competition. Following the discovery, discussions reportedly began within Tiger's team about the long-term use of the material. One idea raised was a potential foundation project that would involve sharing parts of the archive with young golfers. The concept would involve educational materials based on his training systems, injury management routines, and tournament prep strategies. While nothing official has been announced, people familiar with the early conversations say the possibility is being taken seriously. The vault also sparked renewed interest in Tiger's estate itself. Local appraisers familiar with luxury Florida properties say the existence of a secure, climate-controlled underground facility adds value because of the historical significance tied to the owner. According to one estimate shared among real estate consultants, the Jupiter Island property could now command as much as $80 million if it were ever listed. That figure reflects both the real estate itself and the value added by the attention the vault has brought. Within the golfing world, some close to Tiger view the vault as more than just personal storage. They see it as a time capsule that could eventually become part of the broader story of golf history. If parts of the archive are ever released, even in small doses, it could reshape how fans and analysts view key parts of his career. Not through filtered interviews or press narratives, but through the raw materials he kept for himself. Tiger hasn't commented publicly about the vault, and there's no indication he plans to. That's consistent with how he's always handled personal matters. But sources say that since the discovery, his approach to preserving other aspects of his history has changed. Items that were once kept in storage off-site are now being reevaluated, with an emphasis on documentation and long-term storage. It appears the vault may have set the tone for how Tiger manages his legacy going forward. For now, the public won't see what was inside, but those who have say it confirms something that's often been assumed but rarely proven: that Tiger's story was never just about winning majors. It was about discipline, structure, and an obsession with detail that didn't stop when the cameras turned off. The vault didn't expose a secret. It showed the system behind the legend. So what do you think about Tiger now? Let us know in the comments.